South suburban politician Tiffany Henyard appears to have lost control of both governments.
Henyard's landlord showed up here to see her tenant in person after she says Henyard has been dodging both her and rent.
In a community overshadowed by political scandals, Dalton's self-proclaimed super mayor, Tiffany Henyard, finds herself at the center of yet another controversy, leaving both locals and critics stunned. Serving as both the mayor of Dalton and the supervisor of Thornton Township, Henyard has been embroiled in a series of scandals ranging from lavish spending to questionable dealings with law enforcement. With new accusations surfacing almost daily, it appears her already tumultuous political career has reached a critical juncture. Observers are left wondering whether Henyard's actions reflect a complete loss of control or if they're part of a calculated, deliberate strategy. The latest twist in her ongoing saga involves a dramatic claim she made about an upcoming announcement that, she insists, will lead to the arrest and prosecution of several political opponents. This declaration has only intensified the already charged atmosphere surrounding her leadership, with critics questioning whether it's a genuine effort to clean house or a diversionary tactic meant to deflect attention from her escalating troubles. Ironically, despite earning a six-figure salary from her dual roles. Reports indicate Henyard makes more than $280,000 annually. She is currently embroiled in a legal battle over her failure to pay rent. Since August, Henyard has not paid rent, leading her former supporter and landlord Jenna Toll to file an eviction case against her. Toll, who once considered herself an ally of the mayor, claims that Henyard has repeatedly failed to make any payments, forcing her to take legal action. This revelation raises troubling questions about Henyard's ability to manage her personal finances, especially considering her responsibility to oversee millions of dollars in public funds. Residents are rightfully alarmed that someone facing eviction is simultaneously in charge of crucial township operations. The optics of such a situation have only deepened the community's disillusionment with Henyard's leadership, casting doubt on her ability to effectively govern. This latest scandal adds to a growing list of concerns about her financial and ethical management, with critics accusing her of being more focused on self-promotion than on the needs of Dalton's residents. Henyard's handling of public funds has long been a point of contention. Over the course of her tenure, she has faced accusations of extravagant spending, including luxury travel, costly inaugural events, and hosting high-end parties, one of which featured celebrity performers but barely drew any attendees, leaving taxpayers with a hefty bill. Each of these events has fueled public outrage, painting Henyard as a leader more concerned with self-aggrandizement than addressing the real issues facing Dalton's residents. The fallout from her lavish spending, coupled with allegations of mismanagement and unfulfilled promises, has further widened the gap between Henyard's administration and the community's trust. As frustrations continue to mount, public meetings often descend into heated arguments and personal attacks. In one such meeting, critics lambasted Henyard for using taxpayer money to bankroll a luxurious lifestyle, while basic services, such as transportation and infrastructure, continue to languish. These frustrations transcend partisan divides, with residents from all walks of life voicing their dismay over the state of their town. It's clear that Henyard's leadership has alienated many, and the mounting discontent is now beginning to take a toll on her political standing. What's more, her repeated framing of criticisms against her as baseless attacks motivated by sexism and political rivalry has only added fuel to the fire. While some supporters echo her claims of being targeted as a strong, independent female leader, many critics argue that this defense rings hollow in light of the mounting evidence of fiscal and administrative negligence for Henyard's landlord, Jenna Toll. The frustration is deeply personal. Once a supporter of the mayor, she now finds herself embroiled in a legal dispute that underscores the contradictions between Henyard's public persona and private reality. The fact that someone facing eviction due to financial mismanagement is also tasked with overseeing public funds has left many in Dalton questioning Henyard's fitness to lead as the controversy continues to unfold. It remains unclear whether Henyard can weather this storm or if her political career will ultimately crumble under the weight of her mounting scandals. What is certain, however, is that the dysfunction and erratic behavior that characterize her leadership have left the Dalton community deeply divided and disillusioned. Whether through financial mismanagement, extravagant spending, or a strained relationship with her political rivals, Henyard's tenure as mayor has become a textbook example of how not to govern.
Landlord, and she says she came to this Thornton Township meeting Tuesday night hoping to get paid.
Paul's account paints a vivid and troubling picture of frustration and betrayal as she recounts her efforts to collect money owed by Tiffany Henyard. According to Paul, Henyard not only stopped paying rent for the leased property, but also allegedly changed the garage codes and locks to block her access. What started as a straightforward business arrangement has escalated into a situation filled with tension and distrust. With Paul now fighting not just for financial compensation, but for accountability, the situation goes beyond just monetary losses, raising deeper concerns about integrity and leadership. If Paul's allegations are true, the incident mirrors Henyard's leadership style, a pattern of taking without reciprocating or honoring commitments. Paul, who trusted Henyard and leased her property believing in the mayor's public image as a champion for the community, now feels disrespected and betrayed by someone who should exemplify responsibility and fairness. The stark contrast between Henyard's public persona as a community advocate and her private actions, which seem to disregard agreements and trust, adds a somber layer to the story. Paul's recounting highlights not only her personal struggle, but also raises broader questions about the ethical standards and accountability expected of those in power. This ordeal serves as a cautionary tale, emphasizing the importance of holding even the most trusted figures accountable and shedding light on the emotional and moral toll of feeling betrayed by someone with such significant public influence.
I'm at wit's end, and I fear that I'm going to go into foreclosure soon.
The unpaid rent scandal involving Tiffany Henyard is just the beginning of a larger, more troubling picture that has emerged over the course of her tenure as mayor of Dalton. Allegations of extravagant spending have fueled widespread frustration and deep concerns among residents. While Dalton faces a ballooning budget deficit, Henyard appears to be indulging in a lifestyle that many view as completely out of touch with the town's financial realities. Reports have revealed that just this year, thousands of taxpayer dollars have gone toward luxurious accommodations, including stays at the prestigious Four Seasons in Atlanta and the Marriott Marquis in New York City. These lavish expenditures are not isolated incidents, but part of a broader pattern of spending that critics argue has drained millions from Dalton's general fund, pushing the town closer to financial instability and jeopardizing essential public services. One of the most shocking revelations is the claim that Dalton's public funds covered an estimated $223,000 in restaurant bills over just a few months. Henyard has defended these expenses, suggesting that they were part of efforts to attract investors to the town. However, critics are quick to challenge this narrative, pointing out that Dalton is struggling with visible, urgent issues like deteriorating infrastructure, broken water mains, and unresolved safety concerns. While Henyard's administration has framed these lavish expenditures as necessary for economic growth, there has been little tangible evidence to back up these claims. Skepticism has only deepened among residents, who question where the supposed investments are and whether they have had any real impact on Dalton's well-being. The stark contrast between the mayor's claims of attracting investment and the town's deteriorating financial and structural state has been described by some as a betrayal. Residents who entrusted Henyard with their vote are now watching as their priorities, such as infrastructure improvements and public safety, take a back seat to extravagant spending. This pattern of indulgence, critics argue, signals a deep detachment from the daily struggles faced by ordinary citizens. As Dalton's public resources crumble, the mayor's repeated use of public funds for luxury travel, fine dining, and high-end accommodations feels, to many, like a blatant disregard for the trust placed in her leaders. The frustration among Dalton residents has been compounded by Henyard's lack of transparent communication. Many are left wondering why such lavish expenditures were deemed necessary at all, especially when the town's infrastructure is in such dire need of repair. The lack of any visible benefits from these extravagant trips only adds to the resentment, with residents feeling as though their tax dollars are being used to fund a lavish lifestyle rather than address the community's critical needs. For a town grappling with tangible, everyday challenges, Henyard's actions are seen as not only financially irresponsible, but ethically questionable, as well as Dalton continues to face mounting fiscal problems. Many feel that Henyard's focus on self-indulgence is a stark affront to the sacrifices made by the town's residents. The image of a mayor flying first class, staying in five-star hotels, and dining at expensive restaurants while essential services go underfunded is deeply upsetting to those who struggle to make ends meet. For residents already dealing with crumbling infrastructure and other unresolved issues, these lavish expenditures strike them as a sign of misaligned priorities and growing disconnect from the realities of their lives. Critics argue that Henyard's spending habits have done more to erode trust in her leadership than to advance the town's development or improve its financial health. The community's frustration is palpable, and it has become clear that many view her actions as emblematic of a larger failure to address the real issues facing Dalton. The town's infrastructure, its public services, and its fiscal stability demand urgent attention. But Henyard's actions suggest she is more interested in indulging her personal tastes than addressing the needs of the community. She was elected to serve this growing discontent, has become a defining narrative of Henyard's leadership, casting a long shadow over her administration. The increasing sense of betrayal and resentment among residents is not only damaging her political standing, but also calling into question the integrity of her commitments to Dalton's welfare. For a town struggling to stay afloat, Henyard's lavish lifestyle funded by taxpayer dollars feels like a bitter reminder of the disconnect between those in power and the people they are supposed to serve.
It appears that they're going to try to have a meeting upstairs.
The growing allegations that Tiffany Henyard is abusing her position of power to suppress dissent have become a major point of concern for Dalton's residents, raising serious questions about her leadership and governance. Dubbed a super mayor, Henyard is reportedly consolidating power in increasingly authoritarian ways, setting the rules and controlling the narrative to maintain her authority. One of the most disturbing accusations is that she has hired local police officers as her personal security detail, tasking them with monitoring and intimidating anyone who dares to challenge her authority. This chilling tactic of using law enforcement to stifle opposition has raised fears of a police state in the small town, where residents are reportedly subjected to surveillance and harassment for simply expressing dissent. Local business owners, in particular, have been targeted, with some claiming they have been coerced into making political contributions to Henyard's campaign. Those who refuse to comply with her demands reportedly face retaliation in the form of harassment and unwarranted inspections. Lawrence Gardner, a local business owner, shared his experience of being pressured into donating to Henyard's campaign fund only to face harassment when he declined. Gardner described refusing Henyard's request as an invitation for trouble, illustrating the pervasive culture of fear that has taken hold in Dalton. The climate of fear is not limited to business owners. Many residents have spoken out about the risk of retaliation for criticizing the mayor, including threats of arrest for those who dare to challenge her authority. This environment of intimidation has created a palpable sense of unease, with numerous community members describing Dalton as a place where disagreeing with the mayor could have severe consequences. In response to this climate, residents have turned to social media to voice their growing dissatisfaction with Henyard's actions. Public posts have highlighted widespread frustration, with some users even calling for her arrest. One such comment bluntly demands, "Where's the FBI? Henyard needs to be arrested, and the cleanup of this mess must begin immediately." Another critical post accuses Henyard of misconduct, asserting, "She doesn't live there. That house is for show. Her mansion is probably in another state. Tiffany's stolen too much money." She is up to something. These remarks reflect the increasing sense of abandonment felt by Dalton residents, who believe their mayor is far more interested in enriching herself than improving their lives. Many fear that the financial hardships they face will soon lead to foreclosure, further alienating them from a leadership that seems disengaged from their real needs. Meanwhile, Henyard's extravagant lifestyle and the growing scandals surrounding her have reportedly caught the attention of federal authorities. According to reports, the FBI has launched an investigation into her administration, specifically focusing on her use of public funds. While the exact nature of the investigation remains unclear, insiders suggest it revolves around her lavish spending, which stands in stark contrast to the severe financial strain the town is facing. If the rumors are true, Henyard's unchecked lifestyle might soon unravel with potential criminal consequences, but it's not just her personal expenditures that are under scrutiny. There are also rumors swirling about Henyard's awarding of large contracts to campaign donors and close allies, which critics argue are part of a broader strategy to strengthen her political power by consolidating loyalty through taxpayer-funded deals. Some sources claim these contracts are strategically given to secure loyalty and further entrench Henyard's hold on power. Regardless of whether they benefit the public, for many Dalton residents, these developments have confirmed their growing suspicions that Henyard's administration functions more like an exclusive club, where access to opportunities, funding, and power is reserved for those with the right connections. This pattern of favoritism and cronyism has further eroded public trust in the mayor, with an increasing number of residents calling for a formal investigation into how contracts are awarded within the town. Critics argue that Henyard's conduct reflects a systemic problem where only those aligned with her or willing to support her political ambitions are given opportunities to thrive. The mounting evidence of corruption and self-interest has left Dalton's residents feeling increasingly disillusioned with their leadership. Many are now more determined than ever to demand accountability. As the situation continues to unfold, public frustration has transformed into outright outrage, with calls for an official inquiry into Henyard's actions growing louder. This discontent has become a defining feature of her administration, with residents questioning the integrity of the leadership they entrusted with their votes and their future.
Redundant, and we're getting tired of coming here not having the laws followed.
If the scandals surrounding Tiffany Henyard weren't enough to spark public outrage, her actions have now begun to fracture her own camp, further exacerbating her already tenuous position. The most recent development, a lawsuit still pending, has reportedly caused a significant rift between Henyard and Trustan Brown, a key ally. Brown claims his name was added to the lawsuit without his consent, leaving him taken aback when he discovered he was listed as part of the legal action. Sources close to Brown indicate that he immediately sought to distance himself from the case, deepening the divide between him and Henyard. Brown's public disavowal of any involvement has only isolated Henyard further, and as her one solid base of support shrinks, it's becoming clear that she's struggling to maintain control over her political future, once known for commanding loyalty. Henyard now finds herself increasingly abandoned by former allies, with many questioning her ability to lead effectively. The growing sense of disenchantment with her leadership has left her vulnerable to mounting criticism, with many accusing her of neglecting her responsibilities and failing to address the town's dire needs. In a climate of rising dissatisfaction, opposition to Henyard has grown, and residents are publicly accusing her of prioritizing fame and celebrity over the real duties of governing. Many compare her to a reality TV star, more concerned with her public image than actual public service. Her frequent attendance at high-profile events, often accompanied by a full entourage, including security personnel and photographers, has become a source of frustration for many. One of the most glaring examples of this extravagant display was at a recent Valentine's Day ice rink party, where Henyard arrived with her deputy police chief serving as her personal bodyguard. For residents simply hoping to enjoy a family outing, this surreal scene created an uncomfortable atmosphere. For many, this spectacle served as a stark contrast to Dalton's growing financial difficulties, reinforcing the perception that Henyard's focus is on cultivating her own image rather than addressing the town's most pressing issues. This emphasis on style over substance is alienating residents, who feel increasingly frustrated by what they perceive as an administration fixated on appearances rather than practical solutions to their daily struggles. As criticisms of Henyard's leadership intensify, her responses to the mounting pressure have been dismissive and defiant. Rather than addressing the concerns at hand, she often seeks to deflect blame onto others. In recent public meetings, she aggressively attacked her critics, accusing them of jealousy and envy over her supposed success. In one particularly heated exchange, she reminded the town's trustees that she is the leader and demanded their loyalty, accusing them of doing nothing but running their mouths despite her forceful rhetoric. Many in Dalton view her deflections as insufficient and unconvincing. She continues to fail to offer tangible solutions to the problems facing the town. With each new controversy that erupts, her credibility and authority as a leader are increasingly called into question. Her refusal to acknowledge the growing opposition and her inability to address the concerns of the residents only serve to reinforce the perception that she is out of touch with the needs of the community. For the people of Dalton, Henyard's leadership has become a source of frustration. With each passing scandal, they are left wondering how long they will have to endure the endless controversies that seem to follow her wherever she goes. The town's financial situation continues to worsen, and the challenges mount, yet the promise of real change under Henyard's leadership remains elusive. What was once seen as a promising future now seems distant and fading. Each new misstep and scandal contributes to the widening gap between Henyard and the people she was elected to serve, leaving residents feeling abandoned and desperate for leadership that prioritizes their well-being over personal ambition. As the situation continues to unfold, it becomes increasingly clear that Henyard's focus on maintaining her image and consolidating power may come at the expense of the very community she swore to serve. Her actions, both public and private, have left a lasting impact on Dalton's trust in its leadership, and many residents now find themselves questioning whether the leadership they had hoped for is still within reach.
Times to serve them for a household that makes, over $350,000.
As Tiffany Henyard remains confident in her re-election prospects, the opposition is equally determined to bring about change, and her recent declaration that she intends to run again has only escalated the political drama engulfing Dalton. Jason House, a prominent critic of Henyard, has officially announced his candidacy for mayor, promising a new direction for the town. His platform centers on restoring order, decency, and integrity to a government he believes has been severely tarnished under Henyard's leadership. Alongside House, a group of like-minded candidates calling themselves the Clean House Slate has emerged, united by their goal to address the corruption they argue has been allowed to fester in Dalton's government. Their primary objective is to challenge the unchecked power and cronyism that they believe has run rampant, unchallenged, for far too long, with the community now faced with a stark choice between the promise of a fresh start under House's leadership and the embattled, controversial reign of Henyard. The upcoming election is shaping up to be a bitter battle for the future of Dalton. Henyard, who has long prided herself on her political savvy, appears unfazed by the mounting challenges she faces. Despite the very real prospect of eviction from her property, escalating legal battles, and growing scrutiny from federal authorities, she continues to double down on her narrative, seemingly oblivious to the widening gulf between herself and the increasingly disillusioned public for many observers. It is perplexing how Henyard remains so confident in her chances of re-election, even in the face of such clear turmoil. Perhaps she clings to the belief that her established connections, loyal supporters, and personal network will carry her through. She may even believe that those around her will continue to stand by her, no matter the growing evidence of corruption, mismanagement, and financial irresponsibility that has increasingly surfaced. Alternatively, she could be so wrapped up in her own version of events that she's blind to the rising tide of discontent around her nonetheless. Her determination to press forward is clear. Despite facing a whirlwind of scandals that show no signs of abating, Henyard seems resolute in her quest to maintain control of Dalton. Whether or not her established power can withstand the storm of controversy will ultimately be determined at the polls. But there is a palpable sense that her time in office is running out. The upcoming election promises to be an all-out political confrontation, with both sides presenting compelling arguments for why they should govern Dalton moving forward. House and his team offer a clear contrast to Henyard's leadership style, rallying those weary of the controversies and scandals that have dominated her time in office. They emphasize a return to transparency, fiscal responsibility, and a government focused on the needs of the residents rather than the personal interests of the mayor. Meanwhile, Henyard's camp insists on the unshakable loyalty of her supporters and promotes the narrative of progress and success she believes she has achieved. Despite the growing evidence to the contrary, at the heart of this political struggle lies the question of whether Henyard can maintain her grip on power, or if the cumulative weight of her misdeeds will lead to her inevitable downfall. With each new controversy, her credibility as a leader is increasingly called into question, and her ability to continue governing without the public's trust grows more uncertain. Many in Dalton are left wondering how much longer they can allow this cycle of scandals and dysfunction to drag on before significant change becomes a necessity. It's not just about whether Henyard can hold on to her position. It's about what her continued leadership, or failure to lead, means for the future of Dalton. As the scandals unfold and tensions between Henyard and her opponents reach a boiling point, the fallout from this political drama will likely shape the course of Dalton's future. The once thriving town now finds itself at a crossroads, where the path forward hinges on whether voters will rally behind Henyard's embattled leadership or embrace a new era of accountability under House and the Clean House Slate, no matter which way the election goes. The future of Dalton will be irrevocably shaped by the results, and the impact of these ongoing controversies will likely be felt for years to come. As Henyard faces an ongoing federal investigation and mounting pressure from every side, residents of Dalton are left wondering whether their long-standing mayor can continue to hold her office, or whether the rising tide of scandal will eventually sweep her away. With so much at stake, the outcome of the election will determine not just who governs the town, but whether Dalton will be able to heal and move past the legacy of corruption and dysfunction that has defined its recent history. The question on everyone's mind is whether Henyard's grip on power is as firm as she believes, or whether these scandals will finally bring about the end of her tumultuous tenure. If Henyard is indeed defeated, what will this mean for Dalton's future? Will the town finally be able to recover, or will the scars from the past few years linger on? The conversation continues to unfold, and as we await the next developments, it's clear that the stakes for Dalton's future couldn't be higher. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Until then,